my daughter whispered. Run, as I discovered the hidden room in our basement filled with secrets. I remember the exact moment as if it were a frame in a nightmare, everything frozen in time, the walls closing in. It started out innocently enough. I was in the middle of a typical Saturday morning, going through some old boxes in the basement trying to declutter. You know, the usual task that piles up when you live in a house for years, the kind of thing that gets pushed aside 'cause you're too busy living life. But that day was different. I was digging through a box of old family photos when I felt it. A draft. It was slight, almost imperceptible, but enough to make the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I froze for a moment, trying to understand what it was. It was strange, unsettling. The basement had always been a little musty, sure, but this felt off, like something wasn't right. I looked around, but everything seemed normal. The old furniture we'd been storing for years. The exercise bike I never used anymore, piles of magazines and empty boxes. There was nothing unusual in sight. But then I noticed something I hadn't seen before. A small, almost imperceptible seam in the wall. Curiosity piqued. I stepped closer to the wall, running my hand over the uneven surface. Wasn't like the other walls in the basement. Felt different. As if something was hidden behind. Something secret. My heart started to race, and I felt an unfamiliar chill crawl down my spine. Had been in this house for years, but I had never noticed this seam before. It was like the wall was trying to tell me something. Mom! I turned to see my daughter Lily, standing at the top of the basement stairs, her wide eyes filled with curiosity. She was 11, old enough to be independent, but still young enough to have that innocent fear of the unknown. Yeah, honey. I called up to her, my voice trying to sound normal, though the tension in the air made it harder to hide the unease I felt. Are you okay? She asked, her voice tinged with concern. You've been down there for a while. I'm fine, just going through some things, I replied, trying to smile, though my heart wasn't in it. There was something in the air, a tension I couldn't shake. Something about the wall. Something about the way it seemed to be watching me, waiting for me to figure it out. But Lily wasn't convinced. She took a few cautious steps toward the basement stairs. Mom, why is the light flickering? She asked, looking at the single overhead bulb that flickered sporadically in the corner of the basement. The dim lighting made the room feel even more eerie. I glanced up at the bulb and then back at the wall, which had caught my attention so fully. My chest tightened as a sudden impulse washed over me. I didn't know what I was thinking, but I felt the strange, almost magnetic pull toward that seam. I reached out and pushed against the wall, not expecting anything to happen. But then it shifted. The wall moved. My breath caught in my throat as a section of the wall slid open slowly, revealing a dark space. Behind it, it wasn't a room at first glance, more like a small corridor that stretched deeper into the house, hidden and untouched. I felt a cold rush of air, and then it was like I was hit with a wave of something heavy, something suffocating. Lily's voice broke through my shock. Mom, she said, a little more hesitantly now. What's that? I swallowed hard. I don't know, sweetheart. I stepped forward cautiously, as though the floor might give out beneath me, or as if the walls themselves might close in around me at any moment. But something urged me to keep going, to step deeper into the darkness. I looked back at Lily, who stood at the top of the stairs, watching me with wide, frightened eyes. Lily, stay upstairs, I said softly, though I felt the weight of my own words. The last thing I wanted to do was send her away, but there was a feeling inside me, an instinct telling me this was something I needed to face alone. She nodded, her small figure retreating from the stairs, though her eyes never left me. I didn't want to look at her again. I didn't want to see her scared. It felt like I was crossing a line I couldn't come back from. With a shaky breath, I stepped into the dark corridor. My footsteps echoed on the cold concrete. floor. The air was musty, and there was a strange metallic scent that I couldn't place. It had been in the basement 1,000 times, but I had never seen this. I could feel the walls pressing in, the space growing tighter with each step, until finally, I came to the end of the corridor. It was another door. Old rusted hinges. The kind you'd see in a place that hadn't been touched in years. Without thinking, I reached for the doorknob. My hand hovered for a second, the coldness of it seeping into my fingers, and then I turned it. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a hidden room, so small and cramped that I felt my breath catch in my throat. This wasn't just any hidden room. It was like a time capsule frozen in past. Old furniture, dust-covered shelves, strange objects that I couldn't recognize, things that didn't belong in our house, things that made no sense. But there, in the corner, under a pile of old newspapers and boxes, I saw it. Box. A small, nondescript wooden box, but there was something about it, something unsettling that made me feel like I had just discovered the key to something far darker than I could imagine. My hands shook as I moved closer to the box, kneeling down to open it. As I lifted the lid, I found papers, dozens of papers, yellowed with age, brittle from years of neglect. They were covered in scribbled handwriting, some of it barely legible. And then, at the bottom of the box, something else caught my eye, a photo. I lifted the photo carefully, as if it might crumble at my touch. It was an old black and white photo, faded with time. In the image, I saw a group of people standing together, some of them unfamiliar faces, but one face stood out above the rest. It was my father, his younger self, smiling, standing with others I didn't recognize. But what shocked me wasn't the photo itself. It was the background, the setting. Place wasn't a place I had ever seen before. It was unfamiliar. But somehow it felt like I had seen it before. In another life. In another memory that I couldn't quite place. Before I could inspect it further, I felt a small hand on my shoulder. "Mom," Lily whispered from the doorway, her voice filled with a quiet urgency. I hadn't heard her approach, and I spun around, startled by her presence. "Lily, what are you doing here?" I asked, trying to hide the panic in my voice. I didn't want her to see this. I didn't want her to know about the secrets buried in our house. But she wasn't looking at me. Her gaze was fixed on something behind me, her expression changing from one of concern to sheer terror. "Mom," she whispered again, her voice barely audible. "There's someone in the house." I froze, my body going rigid. The air around me thickened, and for a split second I couldn't breathe. My heart hammered in my chest, and my skin went cold. Lily's voice, shaking now, barely made it past her lips. "Mom, they're right behind you." I turned around, my body locking in place as I saw a figure emerge from the shadows, a tall, looming presence I hadn't noticed before. And then, just as I was about to scream, the figure spoke. "Don't move," the voice growled, deep and menacing. "You don't know what you've uncovered." And in that instant I realized, whatever secrets my family had been hiding in this house, they weren't meant to be discovered. Not by me. Not by anyone. And now there was no turning back. The figure loomed in the doorway, dark and tall, its presence overwhelming. I felt a cold rush of fear sweep through me, freezing my body in place. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. The air in the small, hidden room felt thick, suffocating, as if it was pressing against me from all sides. My heart raced, and every muscle in my body tensed. Lily was still standing behind me, her small form trembling, her eyes wide with fear. She didn't make a sound, but I could feel the panic radiating off her. Mirrored my own. The figure in the doorway didn't move, didn't speak. It just stood there watching us as though it was waiting for something, waiting for me to do something or for the situation to resolve itself in some way. But nothing happened. Time stretched out, each second an eternity, until I could no longer stand the silence. Who are you? I finally managed to choke out, my voice trembling as I spoke. The figure shifted slightly, and in the dim light, I caught a glimpse of its features. It was a man. Older, his face shadowed, his clothes dark and worn. He didn't look familiar, but there was something about him, something unsettling. His eyes glinted in the darkness, cold and calculating. He didn't seem surprised to see us, which only deepened the sense of dread in my ears. You shouldn't have opened it, he said, his voice low, almost a whisper. It carried a strange weight, an authority that felt foreign in my own home. This place was never meant for you to uncover. You've crossed a line. His words hit me like a slap, and I took an instinctive step backward, bumping into Lily, who was still standing behind me, frozen in place. What do you mean? I stammered, trying to steady my breath. Who are you? What is this? What have you done to my family? The man didn't respond immediately. He just looked at me as if studying my face, evaluating my every move. There was a flicker of something in his eyes, something I couldn't decipher, but it wasn't kindness. It wasn't even indifference. It was darkness, coldness. You have no idea what you've gotten yourself into, he said after a moment, stepping forward. His movements slow and deliberate. Your father, your family, they've been involved in things far worse than you can imagine. You've opened the door to something that can't be closed. I felt a chill sweep through me, and my throat tightened. The words didn't make sense. My father, the man who had always been the rock of our family, the man who had taught me right from wrong, who had always protected us. Well, it couldn't be true. It had to be a mistake. I don't believe you, I said, my voice shaking but defiant. You don't know what you're talking about. My father would never. Your father isn't the man you think he is, the figure interrupted, his voice cold and final. Things he's done. You wouldn't be able to comprehend them if I told you. But you're about to learn. This whole family is tangled in something much bigger than any of you realize. The words hit me like a thunderclap, reverberating through my entire being. My mind refused to accept it. This couldn't be happening. It couldn't be true. Not about my father. Not about my family. But then I remembered the note. The one Sarah had passed to me earlier. The one with the cryptic message. They know about us. Get out before they find you. Now. My heart skipped a beat as a new, horrifying realization hit me. This wasn't just about some random hidden room. This wasn't just about a family secret. This was something else entirely. My father had known. He'd been involved in something far darker, something that had now come for us. Suddenly, my mind was flooded with questions. Questions I couldn't answer. What had Sarah meant when she gave me the note? Why hadn't she said anything else? Why hadn't she warned me before? And more importantly, who was this man? What was he really after? The figure took a step closer, and my heart pounded in my chest. I instinctively took a step back, pulling Lily closer to me, though I wasn't sure what I could do to protect her. You're in over your head now, the man said, his eyes never leaving mine. The truth about your family is out. You've uncovered it, and now, well, now you'll have to live with the consequences. The room felt smaller, more suffocating, and the walls seemed to close in around me. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run, to get out, to get Lily to safety. But I couldn't just leave. I couldn't just run without understanding what was happening. I couldn't leave without knowing the truth. I need you to leave, I said, my voice trembling but desperate. I wasn't sure if I was talking to the man or to myself. I didn't know if I could make him leave, if I had the strength to make him go, but I had to try. Please just go. The man's expression remained unreadable. He didn't flinch at my words. Instead, he just stood there, still as stone, until his lips curled into a cold, almost imperceptible smile. "I'm afraid you don't have a choice in this," he said, his voice low and measured. "The game has already started. You're already in it." Before I could respond, he turned and started walking toward the narrow corridor that led deeper into the house. The hidden room in the basement was one thing, but now I had a sinking feeling that there were more rooms, more secrets, waiting to be uncovered. And then, just as quickly as he appeared, he was gone, disappearing into the shadows of the hallway. My breath came in short bursts, and I felt my knees go weak, the weight of everything crashing down on me. What had I just witnessed? What had I just uncovered? I turned to Lily, who was still standing there, frozen, her eyes wide with fear. I rushed to her, pulling her into my arms, my own fear making my voice tremble as I whispered, "We need to leave. We need to get out of here. Now." But Lily didn't respond. She just stared ahead, her gaze distant, her body stiff. And that's when I realized she wasn't just scared. She was distant, almost like she wasn't there at all. Like her mind had already drifted somewhere else. I pulled away slightly, looking into her eyes, trying to snap her out of it. "Lily, are you okay?" Her lips parted, but it wasn't her voice that spoke. "Mom," she whispered, but the voice wasn't hers. It was deeper, darker, colder. I recoiled, my heart skipping a beat. What was happening? What had just changed in my daughter? "Mom," the voice repeated, but now it was clearer, more sinister. It was her, but it wasn't. It was like something else was speaking through her. Before I could react, the voice came again, but this time it wasn't just in my daughter's voice. It came from behind me, from the empty shadows of the basement room. "Leave now," the voice echoed, deeper, more threatening, reverberating through the walls. I spun around, my body trembling. The figure was gone, but the feeling, the presence, was still there, pressing in on me. And that's when I realized, this wasn't just about a hidden room. This wasn't just about the secrets of the basement or the mysteries of my family. Something else was at play here. Something darker, something ancient. And whatever it was, it wasn't finished with us yet.